I was one of very few talent managers that was a person of colour. The majority of people in my industry are white and middle class. So a lot of creators of colour wanted to be signed by me because they felt that trust in a shared experience and a shared lived experience. My plan was to not have a plan because I've had a plan for my whole life. I think I said that we were gonna make $1 million and we made literally just under $1 million.
That you were able to forecast so specifically how much money you were going to be making. And yet, 4 years down the line, you quit. Walk me through that decision.
So,
despite making the Forbes 30 Under 30 list and building a company that generated over $4 million in lifetime revenue in under 2 years, she still decided to quit. In this episode, Chloë explains why and how her definition of success has nothing to do with accolades or money.
Shift is an influencer talent management agency. We manage all different people, but the main focus is that we work with good people and people that are giving value to their audience. I think social media can be a very, very negative place, and I didn't want to feed into that. I wanted to create an agency that approached diversity in the way that you should do, where you don't need to talk about it, you should just be doing it.
You quit for a fundamental human-oriented reason. It wasn't about money, it wasn't about your career, it was just about who do I want to be.
Asperger's and ADHD I was diagnosed with in the same year.
Since the diagnosis, are you living your life differently?
So much differently. It's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. I went on a date with someone. He'd said to me that I remind him of Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory, who is also an autistic character. And it's funny when he said that, I was like...
Was that a first date?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't care, right? No, but he said it in like a funny way, but I was like, actually, yeah, I do a lot of the same stuff as him.
A lot of people, especially at a professional level, they define success through these accolades. So I'm successful if I'm on Forbes Under 30 list or if I make this much money. How would you define success now?
I think success is...
Chloë, you're the founder of Shift, which is a company that enabled you to be recognized by Forbes. In this show, I've had the privilege of interviewing many ambitious young entrepreneurs that are included in Forbes' list. But you're the only person that made it to the list through her first company, and then she quit her company. It's quite a unique decision, and I strongly believe that in order for me to understand what drove you to decide that, I need to understand you at a fundamental, personal level. How would you describe yourself?
That's something I'm discovering now. I think what I've been saying to everyone is that this moving away from my company is figuring out who like just Chloë is, because I think so many of us are defined by our job title, right? And like for pretty much my whole working life, I've said, oh, hi, I'm Chloë and I'm a founder, or I'm a talent manager, I'm a whatever jobs I had. And I think because I was so interlinked with my jobs, I actually don't fully know who I am as an individual person. So I can't really answer that question at the moment.
Why do you think we follow that approach? Because I agree with you, particularly in cities like London, the first thing, either the way you introduce yourself or the ask. Second question that someone is asking is, what's your name? What is it that you do?
Exactly. And it's I didn't really notice it as much as I have in the last 2 weeks of me not working, because people are asking me and I'm like, I don't know. I'm just Chloë. But I think, we work we live in a capitalist society, and I think obviously it's like you live to work, which I don't think is right at all. Yeah. So I think because in everyone's minds we're living to work, therefore work is, a massive part of who you are as an individual. And I think that's a shame. I think it's important for people to figure out who they are outside of that.
I completely agree with you. I personally believe that when you meet someone, you're trying to understand as quickly as possible who they are so you can catalog them in one way or another and then decide how to deal with them. And I find it sad that the first thing that people think that would define very quickly who this person is their profession. Yeah,
you're right. It's true, because when you say your job, it's like, now I know how to treat you, which to be honest, you should be treating everyone the same. Whether I say I'm a cleaner or a CEO, it really doesn't matter. And that's definitely how I was brought up, where it really doesn't matter what people do. You treat everyone nicely and with respect, as long as they're treating you nicely and with respect. But yeah, it is. It's such a massive defining factor of who an individual is. When realistically, like, you know, things have happened for you to be on this path that you're on now.
Yeah.
You could have made a completely different decision and been doing a completely different job. You'd still be you, right?
Yeah.
So it's interesting how much significance we put on people's careers and jobs, and how we treat them.
Many entrepreneurs knew they wanted to become entrepreneurs at a very young age. Did you always know you wanted to become an entrepreneur?
I had businesses in school, like, you know, silly businesses.
Yeah.
Pretty much everyone did, I think, at school. Like I had my little tuck shop because when I was at school, Jamie Oliver had banned tuck shops from our schools, which we were all very angry about because we didn't get sweets anymore. So I sold sweets.
What kind of sweets?
So this was the difference between me and other people that were doing it. So most people went to Sainsbury's after school and they would buy donuts and sweets and stuff from Sainsbury's. And you can't put that much of a markup on Sainsbury's stuff because Sainsbury's stuff is already expensive. So what I did is I asked my dad to take me to Macro, which is like a wholesaler, right? And bought a bunch of sweets very cheaply and then obviously marked it up more. So I was
How old were you?
Like 13, 14, I think. But I was making like considerably more profit than everyone else. And I had way more range than everyone else. So I did that. And then too many people were like jumping on it and doing it. So I was like, I'm going to do something else. So I started a nail shop in my classroom. I used to paint girls' nails. I went to an all-girls school. I used to paint girls' nails. And then there was too much demand. So I then started employing people and started giving, I think from memory, I think I used to charge like 50p per nail or something like that. And I'd give people like 10p per 50p that I was making to like pay them. And then again, somebody else started a nail.
What was the driver
business.
to do these things? Was it money? Was it that you just found it fun?
Not money. I don't think it's ever been money. I don't think my driver in life has ever been money. I think I just liked it. I think I like a challenge. I like challenging myself. I didn't feel super challenged at school. So I suppose it was probably me just trying to create something. I also knew I wasn't allowed to do it. So it probably was an element of doing something that I wasn't meant to be doing and doing it well. So I did that. But all my teachers at school said I had to work for myself, but it wasn't them kind of believing in me. It was more so that they know that I didn't listen to teachers. So it was like, you're going to have to work for yourself because you're not going to listen to a boss. So it was kind of, you know, it was a message that was given to me throughout school. And obviously I was kind of doing it anyway, but it wasn't really ever something where I was like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to work for myself. It wasn't that. It was more from a place of necessity because all the companies I'd worked for, I wasn't happy there. So I thought, I'll start my own one and do it better.
I think when you're young, if your parents support your decisions is quite important because it builds up a lot of confidence in your decision making.
Sure.
And it sounds like your dad driving you to Macro
for sure.
was supporting that. Were you trying to model their approach to life? So were they entrepreneurs themselves?
No. My dad's a builder and he's been a builder since he was like 16, I think.
Yeah.
He's now a property surveyor, but he was a builder for most of his life. And my mum works in social housing. So neither of my parents were entrepreneurs. They were both working class jobs.
Interesting.
I think my parents, I'm so thankful to my parents for how they raised me because it was very much that they wanted me to be successful, but they didn't tell me what success was. It was like, we want you to do as well as you can do. And they pushed me because they knew I could do well. They knew I was smart. And they pushed my brother in a completely different way because his brain works in a different way to mine. So I think, my parents always supported me, and anything I wanted to do, they tried their best to make sure I could do it. I was really lucky growing up that, my parents never really stopped me from doing anything. They also didn't push me to go to uni. They didn't push me to be in any specific job. But they did push me to do well, if that makes sense.
They allowed you to become whoever you wanted to become.
Exactly, which I think is such an important thing for parents to do. Because I've got a lot of friends around me from especially from specific cultures where their parents are very specific in, you know, you need to be this or this, and that's it. So I'm happy that I didn't have that experience. I'm grateful that I didn't have that experience.
What did you study in uni?
Event management. It's basically business management, but with events focus. I didn't really, I chose to do it obviously, but it was kind of from a point of necessity where, not necessity, I put on myself, but I was training to be a dancer for pretty much my whole life. And then
what kind of dancer?
I was doing contemporary and ballet, I basically did every different style of dance. But contemporary was what I was really, really like. I really liked doing contemporary, and I went to LBAN, which is like quite a good dance school in the UK. So I was training there, and then I decided at 16 that I was going to give up dancing, which is probably, I don't really regret anything in my life, but that's definitely a regret, because I wasn't the best dancer at LBAN. I'd always been the best dancer at like school and after school clubs and things like that, but I wasn't the best dancer at LBAN, and I didn't like not being the best, which is a very toxic trait when I was younger. But I didn't like not being the best. And I remember I went to my tutor at the time, and I said to him, "Look, I'm not gonna carry on because I'm not the best," because I hadn't been doing ballet since I was 3, which a lot of the girls in my in the classes had been doing. And he said to me that you're not the best, but you're the person that's improved the most. And at 16, I didn't understand that. Like, I was like, okay, well, I'm still not the best. But actually, looking back as an adult, that was such a powerful thing that he said to me that I just didn't recognize at the time. So yeah, so I gave up dancing, and then had a bit of a, not midlife because I was 16, but whatever life crisis that is at that age, and had no idea what I was going to do, because I'd put all my time and energy into dancing for literally since I was like 6 years old. I'd been doing some form of musical theatre, acting, dancing. So I had no idea what I was going to do. I also knew I wanted to go to university. To be honest, it was mainly to just prove to people that I could and say that I had a degree, which again, not a good trait. So I sat down with my mum, and she got this like massive university book out that had like all the different topics and subjects and universities in England. And I looked through, and we were trying to figure out what my strengths were. So we kind of figured out that events management was good because it coupled like my creativity with my organizational skills, and I didn't have to be kind of front and center. I could do things behind the scenes. So yeah, that's how I ended up doing event management.
Do you think that was the wrong choice?
I don't think anything's a wrong choice, because that was a knock-on effect for everything else that's happened in my life. But I think I probably should have done something else. I was kind of juggling a few different things. So I wanted to do psychology. I wish I'd done psychology because I really found psychology interesting at college. What else did I was thinking of doing law. Again, I really like law, so I should have done law. There were so many different things I was juggling. And I think I kind of went with the safe choice of, I'll just do events management because that seems fine, and like I'll have fun doing events, and that's it. But I think it's difficult because there's so much like emphasis put on us making choices at a really young age. We shouldn't be having to figure out what we're doing with the rest of our life at 16 years old. That makes absolutely no sense. And even at uni, like you're going to uni like 18, I took a gap year, but 18, 19, you're really young. You can't make a decision on your whole future, right?
It's not only that you're very young, but the education system doesn't prepare you for you to be able to make such an important decision, because you're asking an 18-year-old kid to decide something that won't determine his or her rest of her life, but would guide them into one path or another.
Yeah.
And not so long ago, probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks ago, that same kid needed to raise his or her hand to go to a toilet.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it's
needed
so
to
true.
ask for permission. So you're not teaching these kids to understand what freedom looks like, what critical thinking looks like, how testing, trial and error looks like. And yet, a few weeks later, you're asking them to make such an important decision. And it's not only that we believe it's an important decision. They kept telling us,
yeah, that is the most important decision.
That is the most important decision.
Yeah.
But hey, can I go to the toilet? And I need your permission. So I find that quite interesting and controversial.
Yeah, I was going to pick up your point you said about critical thinking. And I think actually schools completely strip that away from you, because actually I got in trouble a lot at school. And the main reason I got in trouble was because I was questioning teachers, and not questioning them saying like, oh, I know more than you or you're wrong. It was more so, you've said something and I need to understand it more. So like, can you explain it more? Or like, oh, why is that this? And I would get in trouble all the time for questioning teachers, or like just questioning things. And my parents taught me to question things. They told me not to just, if someone's told you something, doesn't mean it's the truth. So yeah, it's crazy that they dampen that element of you. But then, yeah, a couple of years later, oh yeah, it's time for you to choose your whole life now.
I agree.
See you later.
I had similar teachers, and I've had different educations, and all of them, they have synergy. So I went to Spanish school, I went to an English school, and I also went to an American school. And they all applied the same principle, but they portrayed that principle in different ways. So for instance, in the Spanish and the English school, they would not like you to challenge an idea.
Yeah.
But also, if you were asking too many questions, you would be bothering the teacher, and the teacher would be like, "You're just slowing the class down and whatever."
Yeah.
And then the American school, usually the teacher would start by saying, "There are no wrong questions," and you're like, "Oh, that's great, that's different, that's refreshing." And then you start asking many questions, and then you can tell that the teacher is very much bothered and not answering to the last ones, and you're like, "But you just told me that there are no wrong questions,"
Yeah.
right? So ultimately, it's the same thing,
Yeah.
just with a different wrapping. So you start toying with different businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Your parents are supportive; they allow you and enable you to be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
Then you go into event management. You realize that it's not for you. And then what happens afterwards, right before you found Shift?
Yeah.
Did you get a job?
Yeah. So I left events. I really liked events, actually. Just the company I was working for, I didn't enjoy working for them. So I was kind of scrambling. I was like, I just need a job because I've never not worked. So I was just like, I need a job. I need to find anything.
So you didn't finish uni?
No, I finished uni.
Yeah.
I did events after uni.
Okay.
So I graduated.
Mm-hmm.
I actually moved out. I lived in Bournemouth because that's where I went to uni. I had moved out of Bournemouth on like the Friday and started my new job on like the Monday.
Okay.
Because I'd never take breaks, which is funny. But yeah, so I left my events job. I'd been traveling all around the world doing like massive corporate events. It was really fun. And I got a job as a talent assistant in a influencer talent management agency. It wasn't really something I was passionate about. I didn't even follow influencers.
What does a talent assistant do?
Well, I worked for a small agency, so I did a lot more than probably talent assistants at bigger agencies. But it's just kind of learning, to be honest. It's like the first in the steps of progression of being
Like
a talent
do whatever
manager.
we ask you.
Essentially, yeah. So it's like emails, usually kind of the quote unquote easier tasks of like reaching out about like gifting and, you know, managing people's calendars and that kind of thing. But yeah, it wasn't really something I was super excited about. In my head, I was like, oh, I'll start. And then while I'm there, I'll figure out what I actually want to do. And then I started and I was good at it and I liked my team, so I carried on. So I was at the first company for a year. I then got poached and worked for another company, and then within that company I left and thought, no, I'm just going to do it myself.
In the same industry?
Yeah. So I worked in the industry for 2 years basically. About 2.5 years before I started Shift. And I just had looked at things and thought, I think I can do it better, basically.
And then you start Shift. What is Shift?
Shift is an influencer talent management agency. We don't have like a specific vertical in terms of like we just manage fashion or anything like that. We manage all different people, but the main focus is that we work with good people and people that are giving value to their audience. I think social media can be a very, very negative place, and I didn't want to feed into that. So yeah, talent management agency, full service. So we've bought out books with some of our talent, done like TV shows, podcasts, all of that kind of stuff, as well as the brand deals, which is what actually I should probably explain because I realise people watching might not know what an influencer talent management agency does, but basically we're the middleman between a brand and the influencer. So brands or marketing agencies will pay influencers to promote whatever product or service they're trying to promote.
So you worked for 2 years in 2 different companies.
Yeah.
In the same industry that you start creating a company.
Yeah, exactly.
So why did you start a company? What was the differentiating factor? Why did you think this was a good idea?
Yeah, I could see gaps in the industry. I could see a gap where there was, around the time of this, when I was at the second agency, there was a massive focus on diversity, but it was very much diversity to say you're being diverse rather than actually truly believing in diversity and inclusion. So it felt very tick boxy to me, whereas like, oh, we've got one of these people, we've got one of these people, rather than just bringing people in because they're good people. So I wanted to create an agency that approached diversity in the way that you should do, where you shouldn't talk, you don't need to talk about it, you should just be doing it. And it's funny because you'll see if you look at any podcast I've ever been on, people always talk about, oh, your agency is so diverse, but it's never mentioned at all on the website. I specifically never use that word on the website because you shouldn't have to say it, you should just be doing it and you should be able to see that you're doing it. So
we should normalize it.
Yeah, like why are we not just doing it? You shouldn't have to think about it, you should just be doing it. So that was quite a big thing for me. And also,
why?
I think because I've seen how much representation matters. I think growing up I didn't see anyone from where I was from, because you need to see something to be it. So I think where I grew up I didn't see people that looked like me, who sounded like me, who were doing well. Like I just didn't see that. So you need to be the representation.
That would make you believe that you can't do well yourself.
I think it's hard to see yourself in a position where you can't see anyone that looks like you or is from a similar background to you. So I think that's important. And I think similarly with adverts and marketing, I remember when I was a kid not seeing any mixed families, any like not really that many black people on like within adverts, you know, eating cereal or whatever. Like you didn't see it. And as much as that sounds really trivial, you do notice it as a child when you're tuning in your TV and you're just not seeing anyone that looks like you, or when you are seeing people that look like you, it's more so portrayed in like council estates and gangs and violence and that kind of thing. And actually, you know, you need to be able to see people that look like you. So I think someone said it to me once. You can't be who you can't see, right? So I think one, I wanted to become that person for people, but also I wanted to make sure that we were representing people within the industry that were diverse and were, you know, like pushing good messages, because those are the people that should be marketing products, not potentially like toxic people. So yeah, that was a really big deal for me. And I also just wanted to create a company that people enjoyed working for, because I hadn't really enjoyed working for the majority of companies I've worked for in my life, and I've had a lot of jobs. So yeah, those were the two driving factors really. I also just don't like a boss telling me what to do, so I thought I'd do it myself.
I got that feeling. It's a very powerful idea. How did you take this idea into a reality? Like, describe to me the baby steps. So, how did you fundraise? Did you actually fundraise in the initial stages? No. How did you hire the first person?
Yeah, I'll be super transparent. It's not hard to start a talent management agency.
Okay.
You could start one tomorrow. Would it be a successful one? It might not be, but you can start one very easily. Pretty much all you need is a laptop, a phone, and an internet connection. The main thing for me was the connections that I'd built over the course of those like 2 years working in the industry and the reputation I'd built up. So it meant that we could sign people from the start and have a very strong starting roster because I knew people in the industry. So most people that start agencies, they'll start with a lot of people that you've never heard of and very small creators, whereas we could start with these big names because people knew me and trusted me and, you know, came over from other agencies with me. And then yeah, that was kind of it. And then our first hire was actually someone I worked with before, a guy called Adam. So he worked with me at the agency I was with before.
I'm trying to understand the biggest contributing factor. So what you're saying is that what enabled you to start and excel quickly is that you were able to bring talents from the two previous agencies that you worked for.
The first agents. I didn't take anyone from the first agency. The second agency, I took basically half of their talent.
Okay.
But again, that's because they hadn't designed their company well enough to retain talent. And I think that's a big thing that not a lot of agencies think of. Like, how are you going to make sure that when your talent managers leave, your talent aren't going to leave with them? How you do that is making sure that your talent have a relationship with everyone within your agency. So every creator that comes in knows all of the team, which means that if any one of the team leaves, it's unlikely they're going to leave as well.
If I'm a talent and I was represented by your previous agency and you want to approach me, how would you win me over?
I didn't approach any of them because I couldn't because of my contract.
Yeah.
But people knew I was starting an agency. They knew I'd left the other agency.
They went to you.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Genuinely, about half their talent. That agency actually shut down a few years later.
Okay.
But yeah, I think I'm someone that has integrity and I'm honest. There's not a lot of people in the industry that are super honest. So I think people value that as a trait, especially when you're someone who's pretty much not controlling, but you've got a big hand in their career. You're the person that's the face of their I don't know, their persona. You're the person that's doing emails and you're their voice, right? So you need to have someone that you're going to trust. You're handling a lot of their money as well. You're probably invoicing
they were trusting you
fees
to represent them when all you had was a laptop and a computer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, but it was my reputation.
Okay.
That's the thing. And I think it was a big thing. Also, is worth noting, I was one of very few talent managers that was a person of color. The majority of people in my industry are white middle class. So a lot of creators of color wanted to be signed by me because they felt that trust in a shared experience and a shared lived experience. So that was quite a big thing as well, and that's probably why I built up quite a big reputation, because I was one of very few, especially at the level I was at. Which again was a big passion of mine, to try to get more people into the industry, like working in the industry, that came from all different backgrounds.
Interesting. So you started this in 2021, and by 2023, your company was generating over £3 million in lifetime revenue.
Yeah.
Now, from the outside, it seems that things were going well for you. Was this the outcome of a carefully curated plan, or you just didn't expect that they would perform that way?
I knew it would. I think it's funny actually. You know, when you set up a company bank account, you have to say, oh, we're probably going to make about this much a year or in the first year or whatever. And I correctly guessed. Because I'm someone who...
Interesting. By how much percentage-wise? Were you up or down by 10% from your forecast?
We were pretty much bang on. I think I said that we were going to make $1 million, and we made literally just under $1 million. I can't remember off the top of my head. It was 900
incredibly
and something thousand.
Unusual.
Yeah. But I think
But you were question. So
yeah.
Do you think you were able to forecast that so accurately because you knew what these talents were producing for your previous agencies? So it was more of a copy-paste?
More or less. I think, one, I knew how much the talent were making.
Yeah.
I knew who we were likely to be able to get. And then I also thought we're probably going to be able to sign people that are more or less aligned, or maybe a little bit below or a little bit above, so I could kind of average everything out. But also, I think I'm very good at creating processes and systems. And we are known as one of the most efficient agencies in the industry because we get things done. Because I set up all of the processes before anyone started coming in, which I think is a big thing. A lot of people try to figure out the processes as they go along, and actually you need to design it and then people can slot in a bit easier. And everyone gets it. And I made it super simple because I don't know about you, but I've had some crazy jobs where I'm like, why have you got so many different things you need to do to get to the end point? It makes no sense. So yeah, just keep it.
That's the definition of corporate.
Do you know what I mean? Oh my gosh, it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
Like you're having 20 meetings a day.
I agree.
Why?
To maybe just change the color of the next logo of the company.
Right.
And at the end, after 20 meetings, nobody decided.
You stuck with the same color anyway. So who cares?
And I think this is incredibly impressive because if you're able to forecast so accurately the revenues of your first year, it allows you to structure your cost in a very efficient way.
Yeah.
In your industry, in talent management agencies, what is the typical percentage of profitability?
So generally, talent management agencies take 20% of.
So you made 200 grand that year.
Fees. Yeah. Well, a bit more because I did my own talks and stuff, which is like 100% goes in. So. Yeah, you generally take 20%.
This is unusual. There are already two factors that are quite unusual, and I've sat down in front of many cross-sector entrepreneurs.
Yep.
The first one is that you were able to forecast so specifically how much money you were going to be making from a revenue perspective in year one, and number two, being profitable in year one. Now, it seems that things were going not great, absolutely great for you. You had this power that enabled you to predict what's going to happen for you, for your future. And this is probably one of the things that new entrepreneurs struggle most with because it's so unstable and that can impact you personally. But in your case, this was not a problem. In fact, it's the opposite. If you were saying things are going to be A, B, C, and D, it's actually going to be A, B, C, and D. Now, if you fast forward to 2024, this is where I'm shocked by your story. Things are going well. You can't even foresee what's going to happen in your career. And yet, 3 years down the line, you quit.
4 years.
4 years down the line, you quit. Walk me through that decision.
So I think, as I said when I was saying about how I even got into the industry, it was just because I needed a job, right? I didn't have this huge passion for influencers. I didn't have this huge passion for marketing. I didn't care about any of that stuff. I just needed a job. And then I was good at it, so I carried on. And then it kind of carried on rolling and rolling. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm doing very well at this thing. I'm going to start a business in this thing. And it kept on rolling and rolling. And I think I turned 30 last year, last summer. And around the time of my 30th birthday, like just before, I think a lot of people have this around 30 where you just start thinking about your life. But I was just thinking and I was like, am I happy? And I don't think I realized that I wasn't. And I think I'd had these thoughts throughout the whole of Shift, to be honest, where I was like, do I enjoy this? But I always attributed it to something that was going wrong at the time. So like a talent was being difficult, or we would, things were going on. And then I was feeling it around my birthday when nothing was going wrong. Everything was completely fine with the business. So I was like, if I'm still feeling this way, and no external factors are like contributing to this feeling, then it must be my actual feeling. So that was kind of the first thought. And then I just kept on ruminating on it really and just thinking of it more and more. And a big tipping point for me was, and this is quite a morbid thing that I thought, but I thought, oh, if I got diagnosed with something that was going to like kill me in a year right now, would I still want to do this job? And I thought, no. And I thought I shouldn't have to wait until I'm about to die to
Do you
decide
think there
to
would
leave.
ever be a job that you would want to stick to if you're dying in a year?
I don't know. I think people that really love, especially with their own business,
Yeah.
I think you'd want to still have some level of involvement of it or something. But I just really felt like, no, I don't want to. And I think, yeah, that really was a big tipping point. And I started thinking more and more about what it was that I did enjoy about the job. And I spoke to my mum about it actually. And it was very much, it's more so the helping people. Something I really care about is helping people in whatever way you can. And I think that was the thing that I enjoyed, where it was like, you know, creators that were coming from other agencies, maybe that hadn't been treating them well, or they weren't making that much money or whatever, and helping them to make their dreams become a reality. Like we had a creator who, I remember I had a conversation with him, I think 2 years ago. Was it 2 years ago? Yeah, 2 years ago in January, like our kickoff meeting. And I was like, oh, what do you want to do this year? And he said, oh, this, and this, and like a long-term plan, you know, years in the future, I want to do a book. And by the end of that year, we'd got him a book deal. And now he's an incredible author, his book is out and all of that kind of stuff. And like those kinds of things made me feel really fulfilled because I helped someone to, not because we got a book deal, it's because I helped someone to, you know, get that dream that they wanted. I really liked doing talks at schools. I didn't really care that much about doing talks at these big corporate things. I liked the school talks and the young people talks and that kind of thing. So yeah, I just realized that I don't actually like influencer management or marketing. I just more like the people that I was working with, basically.
Did you leave or you closed the company?
So I sold my shares. So when I brought in Adam, who was the first hire, I brought him in as a director because we worked with each other before, and I knew he had skills that I didn't have. So I brought him in as a director. So he bought me out of the company basically, which was about a 6-month process. So I told him I wanted to leave in November last year, and then as I said, I left 2 weeks ago, so April this year.
This was an incredibly brave decision, Chloe, because people usually quit when things aren't going well.
Yeah, I quit when things were going well.
And you quit when things were going incredibly well. But you quit for a fundamental human-oriented reason. It wasn't about money. It wasn't about your career. It was just about who do I want to be? What is it that I really like? And I find that very powerful and important. A lot of people might be struggling with a similar decision right now in their lives. It could be at a personal level or at a professional level. And probably what is preventing them from quitting is the fear of the feelings they're going to be having the weeks after, the months after. How did you feel right after?
Yeah, it was scary. It was scary. So I decided by myself, and then I went to my parents and I told them, and I'm not a crier. I don't really cry, but I really cried. And I think, as I say, obviously we've spoken about this, my parents are super supportive. So they were like, yeah, we agree. And they'd also seen how hard I've been working and how much of my life had gone into not only my business, but work prior to that as well. So they were really supportive. I then spoke to Adam, and then I spoke to a couple of my friends. But I think it was the more I was saying it out loud. Obviously, you can have a thought in your head, right? But as soon as I kind of started saying it out loud, I was like, oh, wow, like this is the decision. I've made it. I'm going to go. And I was scared, to be honest. I think my main thing was fear around the fact that I didn't really have a plan. And that was my plan was to not have a plan, because I've had a plan for my whole life. And I wanted to not have a plan to allow myself to just figure out what it is that I enjoy and what I'm passionate about. Because I think when you jump from job to job to job and you're really hardworking and really focused on those careers, you don't really have time for external factors to, seep in and see what other things that you enjoy doing outside of that job. So that is my plan and was my plan at the time. And I think that was where the fear came from, the kind of unknown of what am I good, like what's going to happen. And also, to be honest, like I've put so much time into building this career and building my name within this space. And I know that I won't go back to the marketing industry. So it's like I'm kind of I don't really want to say throwing away, but that's the only word I can think of now. I'm kind of throwing all of that progress away to potentially have to start completely again somewhere else or within a new industry. I don't think I'll fail. Like I know myself enough to know that like I'll be all right, but it's still quite scary just not knowing what that next step is when you're someone who has basically planned their whole life. I've never left a job and not had another job lined up. I've always had something to go to. As I say, I got my graduate job in February and I graduated in like May. Do you know what I mean? So I always make sure I've got something ready to go.
It's been 7 months since you quit. You still don't know?
No. So I left 2 weeks ago, but I made the decision 7 months ago. Yeah.
All right. In 2024, so last year, you were diagnosed with Asperger's. What is this condition?
Yeah. So sorry, it was 2 years ago I was diagnosed.
Okay.
So Asperger's and ADHD I was diagnosed with in the same year. So Asperger's is on the autism spectrum. So it's a form of autism.
Yeah.
To be honest, like I'm still understanding it myself. I also try to, with neurodiversity, there's a lot of information online, especially on social media now. It's kind of just like forced on you. I've tried to not look into that too much because I want to understand my own like neurodiversity rather than just neurodiversity as a whole. But essentially I'm on the autistic spectrum, basically. But the difference from my understanding, the difference between kind of autism and Asperger's is that usually kids with autism will speak quite late, so they maybe will start speaking and have that development around like 4 or something, whereas kids with Asperger's start speaking early. So I was speaking before I was 1, and walking and all of that kind of stuff. Quite often people with Asperger's are seen as like blunt or rude just because we're very straight to the point, as you might have seen. But yeah, because I got diagnosed later in life, I kind of developed very good masking skills where day to day you wouldn't really guess that I was on the autistic spectrum.
What triggered you to go and get checked?
So during lockdown, I was watching, have you heard of the show Love on the Spectrum?
No.
It's on Netflix. It's like basically a dating show for autistic people, essentially. It's like showing autistic people dating. And it's meant to be people across the spectrum. To be honest, it's more people on the kind of, I don't know what the word is, but like further along the spectrum than me, but still, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And I was watching it, and I couldn't tell you what it was, but someone said something on the show, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's exactly how I feel. And I've never heard someone like say it. And I'd always felt throughout my life that my brain worked differently to other people, in a sense of I quite often was misunderstood. People quite often thought I was being rude when I didn't mean to be rude, or I didn't think I was being rude. I had difficulty sometimes in social situations. So weirdly, that one thing on Love on the Spectrum triggered me to be like, do you know what, actually? And I went to speak to my mum, because I was living with my parents during lockdown. And I spoke to my mum and I said, I think I was watching this show and I think I might be autistic. And she was like, yeah, I think so. I think so too. And she'd had the thought a year before, but I just hadn't said it to me because I went on a date with someone and I think I might have dropped some food or something on my trouser. And I'm not really someone that gets embarrassed. So I just went, oh, and then just wiped it off. And he'd said to me that I remind him of Sheldon Cooper from Big Bang Theory, who is also an autistic character. And it's funny when he said that, I was like...
Was that a first date?
Yeah.
Wow.
I don't care, right? No, but he said it in like a funny way, but I was like, yeah. But he said it and I was like, actually, yeah, I do a lot of the same stuff as him. You know, he's got his spot on the seat. I have my spot on the seat and I hate when other people sit on my little spot on the sofa. So it was just kind of all of these things coming in. And then we started looking at my family as a whole, and there's neurodiversity within my family. Generally, we've got quite a lot of people that are dyslexic within my family and things like that. So yeah, luckily for me, I had the means to do it privately, because I think it's quite a long process, like going through the NHS. But yeah, so I went and did the test and the doctor told me that I have that.
Since the diagnosis, are you living your life differently? So
much differently. It's honestly the best thing that's ever happened to me. It's weird. I feel conflicted sometimes where I'm like, do I wish I knew sooner or not? I think I'm happy that I know now, even though I do think knowing sooner might have made certain situations easier for me. But I think with this new understanding of myself, I am way less hard on myself. I think I used to come away from social situations and be like, oh, why did I say that? Or why did I do that? And now I understand why I do and say things. I think I'm actually way more in control of my emotions now, because I understand my emotions and my feelings and how my brain works. And I have better tools to communicate with people in terms of how I like to be communicated with and how I, interact with people. But yeah, it's honestly the best thing, because I understand myself now. And I think I was speaking to my brother actually, and he said the same thing, that the past couple of years I've seemed way happier than I ever have in my life. And I think it's just that understanding of myself.
How do they test this?
So with Asperger's or with autism, it's quite lengthy. So you have to do it with a parent. I did a video call, but basically you do a video call with a doctor, and your parent has to talk about like your early development in your early years. It was quite funny hearing my mum say certain things, because I still do certain things as an adult that I didn't realise I'd been doing my whole life. Like she said that when they were talking about like how I used to play as a kid. And she said that, I'd go to the park, and I have a lot of older cousins, but I would have been an only child at the time because my brother wouldn't have been born yet. But I would go to the park and just play by myself and just be having a great time by myself. This is probably why I go on solo holidays as well. I'd be having a great time by myself, and other kids would see me playing and having a good time, so they would come over to me and ask to play. And I'd be like, yeah, sure. And I'd play with them, and then I'd get bored and I'd leave, and I'd just go and play by myself again. And I think even at secondary school, I didn't really actively try to make friends with people. I just, people came and were friends with me. I've never had one friendship group. I've had loads of different friendship groups, because I feel like I can't spend long periods of time with like one person, so I kind of move around.
All these things are traits of an autistic person.
From my understanding, yeah, Asperger's.
Okay.
I don't want to comment too much on like specific traits on autistic and Asperger's, because I don't know enough about it. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a lot of misinformation where people are probably misdiagnosing themselves because they've heard one clip of someone say something and they relate to it. I keep on seeing videos about, using certain spoons then you're autistic, because I can only use certain cutlery, but that doesn't mean you're autistic if you only use certain cutlery. So the misinformation is pretty mad. But yeah, so you sit down with the doctor, your parent talks about your development, and then you talk about your like adult development and relationships and things like that. It's long. I think I was maybe on the phone for like 3 hours to them. So it was super long. But yeah, he told me his diagnosis at the end, and then he sends me like a long overview of everything.
Is this a condition that you have for the rest of your life?
Yeah, it's a what's the word? Neurological. It's basically, yeah. I can't think of what the word is. But yeah, it's my brain. It's basically, there we go. Yeah, it's basically how my brain works. So my brain works differently to someone who's neurotypical. So it's similarly to like if someone's dyslexic, they're just dyslexic. So it's just that I've got a slightly different brain, basically.
I find that also very powerful. I was reading a statistic, and don't quote me exactly on the numbers, but basically it was saying that a big percentage of millionaires in the UK are dyslexic.
Yeah.
And then I listened to a podcast in which the founder of Soho House was saying that he's dyslexic, and that was probably the reason why he became so successful, because in entrepreneurship, you're facing problems of different natures on a daily basis. Some are big, some are small, some are about human resources, some about finance. And we live right now in a world in which we don't listen to understand, we listen to respond. But as a dyslexic person, you need to simplify whatever it is in front of you.
Yeah.
So he was forced to really unpack every problem to its foundations.
Yeah.
And then that allowed him to really understand it and make probably the best decisions. And I found that super interesting.
Yeah, there's a lot of founders who are autistic and have ADHD as well. Loads of founders, and like quite a lot of really successful people that are just neurodiverse generally. I think it's maybe because your brain works slightly differently to the majority of people in the world. You approach problems differently, and you can see things slightly differently from other people. So you might see solutions that they might not see. I think with me, you were saying about like my foresight. I've got really good foresight because how I've had to develop, because I didn't know I had autism throughout my life. And I kind of had to try to assimilate to everyone else and try to fit in and like look quote unquote normal. I'm really good at recognizing patterns because I'm not great at social situations. I basically assessed and made a big log in my head of what the cause and effect of things are.
Yeah.
So I know that if you come to me and you're crying, okay, that probably means that you want me to do X, Y, and Z, and then I can do X, Y, and Z. But, you know, the first few interactions of that, I might not have known exactly what to do. So I kind of download all of that data, and then I can assess situations that are happening in real time, which also means that sometimes I can kind of see into the future, essentially, because I'm like, okay, cool, if this has happened, then this is likely going to happen next, and this is likely going to happen next. So it's definitely helped. I don't like when people call it their superpower, because I think I personally don't think it's my superpower, but I think it's definitely helped me in my life.
Walk me through the challenges. So what are some examples in which Asperger's is not ideal?
So social situations are probably the biggest one, which is quite difficult as a founder, especially in marketing, because you've got so many like events and networking things and all of that kind of stuff. And, you know, networking and small talk is quite difficult for me because I don't know what the word is, but I don't deem them as like super valuable in my brain. So I'm like, I don't want to do this. I just want to go on to the next thing or do something else. So that's quite difficult. But again, because I was undiagnosed for a long time, I found a lot of ways to deal with that. So I kind of had a bit of a list in my head of like small talk things that I would say to people if I needed to say it. The weather is always a great one, especially in England. So yeah, that social situations. I also think being a manager, like of like staff, sometimes that made it difficult because, you know, if staff were, you know, I've had, you know, my team like crying to me about like personal situations, and I find it very difficult when people cry around me because I just don't know what to do. I always try my best, but it always makes me feel uncomfortable. So it's quite difficult as a manager because, you know, as a friend, my friends know, don't cry around Chloe because she doesn't know what to do and she's going to get awkward. But when you're managing your staff, you can't just be like, oh, like I can't deal with this. So you have to deal with it, which sometimes I found quite difficult. I also have, and this is the thing with autistic people generally, a very strong sense of justice. So when I deem someone to be doing something that is like unjust or wrong, I feel so strongly towards it, which isn't always a good thing as a founder and as a manager, because you can't fight every fire and you can't deal with every injustice that's going on in the world around you. So, but then I suppose the injustice thing has probably helped me as well because it's made me, you know, who I am and feel so strongly about the business that I built. So yeah, those are probably the main two, I would say, but I'm sure there's more. To be fair, with my ADHD, it's just focus. It's very difficult for me to focus on things.
You've had a very interesting life. Multi-layered. What is the greatest lesson you've learned in your journey?
What is the greatest lesson I've learned? I think, and we'll see this lesson play out, I think it's to stay true to yourself. I think in business, when you have clear missions, clear values, you have to stay true to that. And I think that's why Shift was so successful because, you know, if a creator wasn't aligning with us, no matter how much money they were making, we wouldn't be working with them anymore. And it meant that we had real integrity within our company. You knew what you were getting with our company. And actually, we always did well because, you know, we'd get rid of the people that weren't aligned and then we'd bring in more people that were aligned. It also makes it way easier to make decisions because you just look at it and say, is this aligned or not? No, okay, cool, we're not going to do it. So I think in business that's helpful. And for yourself, I think that's how I came to this decision because I probably tried to put it off for ages, but I really thought what was right for me and what was true to me and what I was doing wasn't true to me. So I had to move away from that decision to make another one. But yeah, I think having a good understanding of what your values are is helpful in every space in your life, I think.
I agree with you. I personally believe that we learn very little from success and we learn almost everything from our failures. Yet there are some failures, there are some mistakes, just a few, that are better avoided. Can you recall a mistake that you would have rather avoided?
Business-wise or just generally in life?
Let's see where your mind takes you.
I'm trying to think of a mistake. I don't know, because I don't really look at things as mistakes because I think everything happens for a reason. And, you know, if something's happened, it needed to happen for other things to happen. I'm trying to think of something I think of a mistake. Do you know what I think a mistake was? And I've had to unlearn this for myself, is that for the vast majority of my life, I was living not to please people, but I wanted to be recognized by people and I wanted people to think I was doing well. I always wanted people to think I was doing well. And I think that led me to do a lot of things that weren't fully true to me because I was doing it more so for other people. I didn't care if people liked me, but I did care if people respected me and they thought I was doing well and successful. So I think that was probably the biggest mistake of my life because it made me do so many things that then weren't right for me. Just living for other people in any way, people pleasing, anything. Like I'm not a people pleaser, but anything like that. Yeah, I think you've just got to live for yourself. Obviously, you think about other people, but you need to live for yourself for sure. So that's probably, it's like massive and all encompassing, but that's probably the mistake I would say.
If you're honest with yourself, do you still care about what people think of you?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's difficult to not. And I suppose hopefully within this time that I have off, I can try to unlearn that. I've deleted social media, so that's one thing, because I think social media makes it very difficult to not think about what other people think of you. I think I do, but definitely not as much as I used to, and not in the same way that I used to. I want people to think I'm a good person. I think that's important. I think everyone should try to be a good person. But I'm not.
How would you define being a good person?
I always say there's a big difference between being a good person and being a nice person. I don't care about being a nice person. I always want to be a good person. I think it's just being... How do you define good? That's a really...
How would you define good?
I don't know. I'm trying to think.
Answer.
Trying to think what the definition of even is of good. I think...
Should be yours definition.
Yeah, no, I'm trying to think I just always use the word good, but it's true. What on earth does good mean? I think I'm not religious, but I think you see this across all religions. It's just to treat other people the way you want to be treated, essentially. You treat people kindly. You help people when they need to be helped without wanting or needing anything back in return. You don't help in order to receive. You just help because it's the right thing to do. I think that's how I've always lived, just trying to do what's right. Not always what's best, but doing what's right. But it's right. I'm going to think about that, actually. What on earth is good? I'm going to also look up the actual definition of good because I don't know what it is.
If you could go back and talk to your younger self and give her one advice, let's say 10 years ago, what would you advise her?
What would I invite? How old was I? 20. Doesn't even feel like that long ago. It was obviously 10 years ago. I think stop being so hard on yourself. I think, as I said, I was really hard on myself when I was younger, and I didn't like myself when I was younger. I would actively not spend time by myself because I didn't enjoy my own company, which is funny because it's complete opposite now. I love spending time by myself. But I think it's very hard when you're young. Probably maybe more so when you're a young woman, but maybe it's everyone. But I think you're so focused on external factors that it can just beat down on you. And I think I was very focused on external factors. How people felt about me, how people treated me. I used to really think about situations over and over again. And I think I just needed to step back a bit from myself and just allow myself to be me. I think that's probably the advice I would give myself. I wish I'd come to that conclusion and that realization earlier in life. Just, you've got to like yourself. And I think not enough people spend enough time focusing on that understanding of themselves and liking of themselves. And as I say, with this new understanding that I got a couple of years ago, I feel so much better. And I think everyone, you don't have to be neurodiverse to do that, but I think everyone needs to have that kind of self-reflection and understanding. Yeah, to just to live a happier and less heavy life, I think. I felt really deep.
Let's talk about external validations. In 2024, you made it to Forbes under 30 list.
Yep.
What does this mean to you?
So Forbes was a big one. I really wanted to get onto the Forbes under 30 list. Since I've got on it, I feel less like that, but maybe that's just because I've got on it. I think to me, it was the last externally validating thing that I wanted. And I really did. Once I got it, I was like, okay, cool.
Now I can quit.
I'm not even that I can quit. No, I didn't think I could quit, but I was still cool with it for then. But I was like, I don't need anything else now. Because I'd had awards before and I'd had all of that stuff before, but I was like, okay, I don't need anything else. I need to stop doing things for those things now. I need to stop thinking about, oh, I didn't get that award, somebody else did. I need to stop that. I do think with Forbes, obviously, it's from such a massive pool of people. I don't know how many it is, but I'm sure there's loads of people that apply for Forbes or get nominated for Forbes and for the under 30 list. And I think to be recognized is really empowering by people who don't know who you are, who aren't in your industry. It's, you know, cross industry and all of that kind of stuff. And I think it just made me feel like, it felt like a massive achievement. And I was really proud of myself for getting on there. And also, again, being that, like, you can't be who you can't see, like, I'm happy that I'm on there as a person who maybe, you know, not a lot of people would think would be on that list. Like, I tick a lot of diversity boxes, and not that I like the ticking boxes, but I do. So yeah, it's great to be that representation for other people that, you know, might not feel like they can be on it. I did a video actually I don't make videos on TikTok, but I did a video on TikTok specifically talking about how I got on the list and who I am and things like that, because I think people assume that everyone on the Forbes under 30 list is like this billionaire.
Yeah.
So, do you know what I mean? Everyone thinks that, where it's like, oh, they've got a massive company and they're a billionaire and they've done this and this, and it's like, not really. I'm just a normal person. And I want people to know that things like that are attainable to them, but also at the same time, it's not the be all and end all. If you don't get it, it doesn't mean that you're not doing well, that you're not successful, and all of those kind of things. So yeah, I feel a bit conflicted about it now, but still, it's nice to be recognized, I think, especially when you've put in a lot of work.
For a lot of people, especially at a professional level when they're young, and I think you, not now, but perhaps a few years ago, also fall under that category. They define success through these accolades. So
Yeah.
I'm successful if I'm on Forbes under 30 list, or if I make this much money. How would you define success now?
I think, what is success to me? I think success is definitely just for the individual. I don't think you can tell other people what success is. I think you need to decide that you're successful. I think for me personally, success is that I know I'm being a good person and that I'm happy. I think happiness is actually, no, not happiness, contentment. I always strive for contentment, not happiness, because happiness is fleeting and contentment can be constant. But I think, yeah, being content is success to me. I think that's something that I've strived to be for a long time. And yeah, I've been feeling content for the past couple of years, I think, and I feel like that is a success in itself, especially just, you know, personal development and learning. Yeah, I definitely tied a lot of my success to all the accolades before, but you know, it doesn't mean as much as you kind of think it means, to me anyway. So yeah,
you're saying
contentment.
that because you're content, you're successful now?
I feel successful in myself, yeah. And I think especially looking at myself, you know, as you say, 10 years ago, I was not content at all. I was very unhappy. So yeah, I think the development and learning for myself as a human being, I feel successful in that. And that's a more constant state, right? Like obviously jobs, you can't always control jobs, even if you own your own company, you know, the economy, and there's so many things that can impact just work and jobs. You can't really control it, whereas you can control yourself to some degree and like how you feel about yourself. So I think it's probably a better thing to focus on, for me anyway, than like, as I say, more external factors. So yeah, I feel successful at the moment. That might come and go, but at the moment I do.
Thank you, Chloe. I have a deep respect for people that are constantly trying to understand and identify who they are. I believe that we live in a world that is also regularly trying to define who we need to be.
Yeah.
What is it that we need to like? What is it that we need to buy? Who do we need to marry? And they're narrowing our definition of success or our overall picture of happiness. Yeah. And I believe that the only real way in which we can start nurturing our happiness is by getting to know ourselves. And fortunately, there are so many people that they don't get to know themselves in their entire lives. You're 30, you're incredibly young, and you've made the very brave decision to quit your company, a very successful company, to understand yourself and to understand yourself better. So I thank you for sharing your story, and I know that there's a lot of people listening to this that would feel identified in one way or another. And most of the people that know me, I would really want to clarify this. I'm not a person that has ever privately or publicly advocated for quitting, but if there is one exception to this rule, which is my rule, is that you are allowed, or not only allowed, encouraged to quit in the pursuit of your self-identity. And that is the only reason that I believe that quitting is not only valid, but it is absolutely necessary.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I'm the same. I always tell people, like, even if you are going to leave something, then, you know, you should be going somewhere else. So yeah, no, I completely agree. And thank you. I really appreciate it.
And there's one more thing that I want you to share with me. We were discussing it before the episode started, but you're going now to New York on a solo trip, and you go for dinners by yourself, and you do other solo trips by yourself. Why do you do this? And what are the benefits that you're getting from this? Because a lot of people would want to do this, and I include myself.
Yeah, no, as I said to you earlier, like, I think everyone should go, even just once, even if you can go once and hate it and never do it again. But I think everyone should experience it. I think, as you were saying about, you know, the importance of getting to know yourself, being alone in somewhere that's not familiar to you is a really quick way to understand yourself as a person. And you kind of have the freedom, you know, if you're on holiday, you have the freedom to kind of do what you want. You can get up when you want, you can go and eat when you want, you can go and do stuff when you want, you can spend the whole day in bed if you want to, you can, you know, do whatever you want to. And you can meet people and experience things as yourself rather than with someone. I think sometimes, you know, if you're with friends or with a partner, you're experiencing things together, and therefore their experience of it kind of is kind of entwined with yours. So yeah, I love it because I just don't like doing up things that other people want to do, basically. So I like doing my own thing. Probably I probably am quite a selfish person. That's why I don't really want kids anytime soon, because I care about myself too much. But yeah, I think there's a real freedom in traveling by yourself. Obviously there's pros and cons of it. There's, you know, you have to go out for dinner every day by yourself, or, you know, you don't have to make friends. You can try to make friends if you want to. You can. Sometimes I have made friends, sometimes I haven't. But yeah, I do think there's a real freedom in that exploration. And I definitely encourage everyone to do it. Even, as I said to you, even if it's just like going to Barcelona or something for 2 days, like somewhere easy or quick, or going somewhere that you've already been, so you have some kind of familiarity with the environment. But yeah, the only thing I would say is, as a female solo traveler, I don't then do a lot of the like evening stuff that I might want to do. Like, I don't really go out too much in the evening, just from a safety perspective, which sometimes is a bit annoying, because it's like, oh, I would love to go to this like party or this thing, but I know that it's maybe not the safest thing for me to do. So that's definitely the downfall of it. But yeah,
and there's one more thing that I want to add to that. So it is slightly different to be single and do a solo trip and being in a relationship.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And do a solo trip, because a lot of people that are in a relationship that are listening to this might be thinking, approaching this conversation with my partner is going to be hard, because naturally my partner would think that there is something fundamentally wrong, not only with the identity of this person, of my partner, but also within the relationship. And I personally don't think that if you have a true partnership and that other person really loves you, in the simplest and most natural way or definition of love, they should allow you the space to be whoever you want to be. And ultimately, if someone is putting barriers because of insecurities and fears for you to do that solo trip, which is something that it is not that big of a deal, that should raise a question mark on 100%. Whether you should be with that person. And I just want to leave that out there.
Most definitely. But yeah, I think even if you're in a partnership, maybe even encourage the other person to do so as well. Like, oh, I'm going to go away for this weekend. Maybe you should go away for the weekend. You know, we can do solo trips together.
And I think if obviously you come back to each other, but doing things like this, it allows you to become a better version of yourself. At a personal level, so with your partner, with your parents, with your friends, but also at a professional level.
Definitely. Yeah, I completely agree.
Thank you, Chloë.
Thank you.